Okay, let's wait for a while, yeah?
Sure. Oh, wow. I didn't know you could live stream from Zoom.
Yes, live stream from Zoom and now it's already in Facebook.
This is pretty
Okay.
cool.
Okay, hi parents. This is Coach John here from Learning Out of the Box, and thank you so much for being here. And today we have the privilege of having a good friend of mine, Dr. Christina. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, so before I let you share with us your backstory, let me just quickly introduce you. Okay, you are a doctor as well as a passionate study coach. And today you're going to share with us from F to A students, my journey of becoming a doctor. Great. Okay, so I think there are some parents who may know you and some don't know you. Could you share with us like your backstory? How were you like when you were a child, and how did you become a doctor?
Okay. Do you want the long version or the short version, John?
Sorry again.
Do
It's up to you. Probably 3 to 5 minutes. Yeah, and I think what parents will be interested in will be the study coach, because I think our Facebook group serves parents who help their children maths at home and probably other subjects as well. So they may want easy study techniques that can help their kids.
Okay, well, why don't I start off by sharing about my story of how I became a doctor and how I started the study coaching.
Yep, that'll be good.
So I started when I was a kid. I've always wanted to be a doctor. But then my results dropped significantly when I went to secondary school. It was to the extent that I would fail 7 subjects. That was 1 year I failed 7 subjects.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, I think I was around 13 at the time, and I really hated school. I couldn't wait to get out. I thought I would never end up going to universities because I just couldn't see my results improving in any way. It wasn't because I wasn't trying, because I was trying super hard. And after I tried super hard, my results actually got worse. So I kind of like gave up on studying. I thought, that was my dream and that was me. Like my dream would never come true because I just can't study. I'm not the study type. So after I tried really hard, go for a lot of tuitions, work really hard for a year, what happened was that was the year I failed 7 subjects and I had to retake a year. So in my new school, I just thought, I would just finish my O-level. Whenever I could stop going to school, I would stop going to school because my results not getting anywhere. But then I met some really good mentors who taught me how to study. They helped me find out that the way I was studying, they helped me realize the way I was studying was, in a way, it's not very efficient. And it's not that I was not smart or stupid, which I thought I was. But it was just because I was using the wrong study method, wrong study techniques. I was approaching study in a completely wrong way. And ever since then, my results got a lot better. And I also became very passionate about teaching. Because I'm just like, wow, this is so cool. Like, if you know how to learn different things, science could be fun, maths could be fun. I started teaching like my friends in my year, and they were like, oh my God, I could never have passed or even got an A without you. And I started running the science group in school and to teach the juniors year how to study. So that was how I first started teaching. And then I got into universities and I got into a really good medical school, and my dream came true and I became a doctor.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, sometimes it still feels like a dream because there are times where it hits me that I was this kid who was never very good in school. Actually, thinking about it still makes me want to cry because I remember when I was really young, school wasn't a good memory. Like I would get headaches just from thinking about going to school. So yeah, and once I start learning how to study, I become very passionate about teaching because I was just like, oh, it could be really fun. How could people not know this? Like the whole world should know about this. And when I was in uni, I actually took some time to teach at a secondary school. It was a disadvantaged secondary school. So the children was like quite in a not very well-off family. When I started teaching there, the average for the maths class, it was 32 students and the average was C minus. And some of the students were just like, yeah, I cannot wait to finish this exam, then I will never have to go to school again. But within 3 months, the average went on to A.
Wow. So it's like from a C minus all the way to A within 3 months.
Within 3 months. And it's like everyone.
Wow.
Like some of the U student, like he got an A, and I was like very, very impressed. Actually, maths is my favorite subject, John. Have I told you that?
Yes, yes. I think you have told me that. Yeah, and I really love the part when you shared about your story when you shared that you have also thought that you were not an A student. Yeah, and I think that I think somehow it resonates with many parents out there with kids who are not performing yet. And parents, I think what you want to realize here is the yet, because many of our kids, actually all our kids are high achievers in their own rights. Yeah, we just need to give them the right tools and the techniques, which Christina will share with you right after this. And before you share with us the techniques, let me share the parents one more thing. The reason why we do this is because we want to support parents to teach their children maths at home. And of course, in this case, in any subjects that they want to do well in. Yeah, so this is a free Facebook Live, and we want to help as many parents as possible, as well as kids too. Yeah, so do help us to share the Facebook Live with your friends so that more people can benefit. So back to Christina, so could you share with us like what exactly did you do? Because I think when parents hear that you help kids to move from C to A, I think they want to know the techniques. Yeah, so could you help us to break it down into simple steps so that we can follow our own kids? Yeah.
I think a simple way to think about it is when you think of your kids studying as SMS, the way I would think about it, the first S stands for study techniques. So study techniques include what are the method you're using. Like for example, a lot of kids, when they revise, they read notes. That's the most common way of revising, right? But that is actually one of the least effective way to study. You could spend 1 hour reading notes, and someone else who spent 15 minutes using other study method would get a much better result. Or maybe same as you. So for study techniques, study method is one of them, like using different memory techniques, how to help kids remember information. That's another one. So that's the first S. And then M is mindset. And the last one is study quality. So I know like a lot of parents, a lot of students, when they started, they probably thinking about, oh, just give me the quick tips. Like, what is this like new study techniques that I could use to immediately get my results like improved? But actually, the reason I share about SMS and why, and they're actually equally important. The way I think about SMS is that they are like free leg of a chair. If you have really good study techniques, but you don't have good mindsets, actually your results wouldn't go very far. Your kids could study less and get the same results, but they wouldn't want to improve. So let's say if they intrinsically think they are a C student, some of the kids could actually get A, B in their mock exams or when they practice at home. But in the exam, they always come up with a C. That's because in their mind, they think of themselves as a C student. That's why it's actually very important to work on the kids' mindsets as well as study techniques. And the last S stands for study quality. And is equally important because especially as you go up in time, especially when it comes to secondary school, when you have more and more things to learn. A lot of parents or teachers, when they ask kids, about studying, a very common question I hear is that, oh, how much have you studied? How long have you been studying? And if the kids say, oh, I've been studying for the last 5 hours, then the parents will be like, oh, well done, you're a good kid. Even teachers in school, they'll be like, how long do you spend studying at home every night? And then if the kids say, oh, I spend like 3 hours every night, and the teachers would be like, oh, that's a really hardworking student, that's a good student. But actually, studying time is not the most important. The most important thing is study quality. And I feel like that is something that people don't put enough attention to. So I always tell my parents, instead of asking your kids, how long have you studied? Like, ask them, what have you learned?
So let me just quickly summarize for the parents. And parents, I have typed in the comments box. The first S stands for study techniques, M stands for mindset, and S stands for study quality. Yeah, probably you can help us to break down because I think you cover a bit a few techniques within the first S. Yeah, because I think from my own experience when I was younger, my father was a very hands-on dad, and what he did for me was, okay, you can do from the first page to the last page. Yeah, and he'll just buy me like tons of assessment books and expected me to finish like one a week or one every 3 to 5 days. And I think that it's also very common now. Yeah, so what are your views on this way of like just mindlessly doing questions after questions?
That's the quickest way to make your kids hate studying, I guess.
It shows that you really understand kids, because I think when I ask a student in my class, they say, I hate this.
Oh, sorry, John, you just
Can you
got
hear me?
there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I think that you really understand kids, yeah, because when I ask my students in my class if they like this, they say, of course I hate it, but I have no choice. Yeah, I have no choice. Yeah. So what are some of your like because these are some of the ways that we parents we were taught since young, and it's so hard to change a mindset, right? Which is your second M. Yeah. So how can parents still make use of the same techniques and yet just tweak a bit for increase effectiveness?
So I guess one of the things is to get your kids to understand what they're learning. So let's say if you're doing an assessment book, right? Rather than just like, oh, kid, like finish everything now. You can just ask them as by simple questions. Okay, do you know what this chapter is about? You would be amazed how many kids learn to do assessment book mindlessly, like without thinking what they're actually doing, what they're learning. And one thing I wholeheartedly believed, and I see in every single student, is that they actually all love studying. This is like from the student who got like a U in his math, telling me that he hates maths, to like people who be like, oh yeah, I've no talent in math, I don't like studying, I hate school. They deep down all love studying. The reason they don't want to admit that they like studying is or the reason they feel like they hate it is because they feel like they don't understand it and they feel like they're bad at it. So they try to avoid it. So one thing I believe in students is that you have to give them the sense of achievement. When you give them assessment book, they don't feel like, oh wow, I'm so great, I finished 10 questions. Many kids don't see it that way. They see that, oh, I still have 90 pages to go. And that's how parents talk to kids, right? So normally when I teach, let's say if I need to go for assessment exercise with kids, I will ask him, what are you doing? Do you know what you're doing? So they either say yes or no. I always try to make them answer the questions. So wait until they could really answer me what they're doing. For example, factorizations. Then I would make it more fun. If it's especially with younger kids, I'll be like, oh, okay, like, why do we need to know factorizations? Like initially they will all say, I don't know, like because the school forced me to. but you can actually apply it to their daily life, So let's say with really young kids, they were learning about like addition and subtraction, right? You could be like, okay, so how many toys could you have? If you could do this, you could count how many toys you have. And then that's how like I get my baby nephew to be very excited about learning math.
Wow.
They feel the sense of achievement. They're like, oh, actually, I know why I need to learn this. Okay. And then I will be like, okay, so now you know what addition is for. How are you going to do it? Can you do this question? So before I make them do an assessment, I always challenge them. Do you think you could do it? Kids would love to say yes, or like if they still find it struggling, then you downgrade the challenge. Depends on what level your kids is at. So let's say they really think they can't. I was just like, okay, look at this question. Which one do you think is the easiest? And then get them to try to do the easiest. And after they do one, then I'll be like, oh, well done, you did it. So you're good at subtraction. And get them to acknowledge that feeling of fulfillment. Sometimes when you do assessment book after assessment book, you look at the stack of books, right? It's hard to feel like I have achieved so much because it doesn't mean much to them. But then if you tell a kid, you just learned subtraction today, kids could get really excited. They would go around and start telling people, guess what? I just learned how to do subtraction today. So I think this is like, if you really have, assessment book is great. Like I actually have so much fun doing assessment book because I could associate the feeling of achievement with doing questions.
And it sounds like even children are very young. It's important to get them to understand the why. Yeah, plus also to get them to have a feel or sense of the achievements. And probably you can let me share. Let me share like how I got my middle child to do maths, and all I can say is math is not her favorite subject. Yeah, it's the least favorite. Yeah. So what I did for her is it's like when we want to motivate people to do something, it's either we can use a carrot or stick. Yeah. So I use carrots. Yeah. So I say that, okay, if you finish like 3 questions, then let's do something that you like. And she loves to bake. Yeah. So I always like to put the baking process at the back of the math. Some days it works for me, some days it is, but I think I will still try to use what she likes at the back of math.
I think carrots and stick, I would always pick carrots as with you because it just doesn't work. But I think for older children, when they after they develop their hate for studying, right? They kind of need the carrots to keep them started initially. But actually, I suggest with younger kids, the most important things is get them to feel the sense of achievement.
Would you be able to share like what are some of the simple ways parents can help the kids to feel a sense of achievement while studying?
Okay, I think one of the so for example, I'm actually coaching parents now. I'm teaching her to coach her kids one is in PSLE, one is two other kids are a lot younger. So what I get her to do, sorry, remind me, what was the question again? I don't want to go off topic.
What are some of your proven ways, or what are some of your ways that you have suggested to parents on how to motivate our kids to study?
Okay.
And also to have a sense of achievement.
Sense of achievement. Very easy question.
Yeah.
Can you teach me?
Teach you?
Like as in you ask the kids, can you teach me? Like kids, I see that when parents or when kids go for tuitions, what happens a lot is the teacher is talking, right?
Yeah.
Or like the parents would teach the kids some way, and then the kids would be like, no, that's not how it is. but it will mainly be parents talking, not the kids. But actually, one of the simple way you gotta do is to ask your kids, oh, can you teach me? They must know something. And then once you get them start talking and you're like, wow, that sounds really good. It's actually quite funny because a lot of the time when I teach students, right, I start off by asking, tell me, what do you know? And then they kind of go on nonstop. And then they started talking halfway through and they were like, oh, actually, I know about this. Some of my sessions, I feel like, just by sitting next to them, reminding the student that they can do it, they actually started self-taught, self-teaching themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when students say they don't understand something, is that they have a specific mental block. But then you cannot know what that mental block is as a teacher. It's like when someone asks you a question, but they already have an answer in mind. It's very hard to guess what it is. So the best tip is just actually get the kids to talk. Get them to understand where their mind processes. Then sometimes they would think it out themselves, which is perfect. Sometimes they would be like, oh, this is the bit I don't understand. Or you find out where they go on the wrong bit. Then you step in and explain. So I think this is like, there are a few benefits to doing it this way. First, you actually get the kids to think. The problem with a lot of, sometimes when parents sit down with the kids, is that I look at them and I was just like, yeah, the kids is obviously not paying attention because the kid is not the one who's using their brain. When I see parents studying with kids, I always see that the parents are the one who's working hard. I always remind them, if you feel like you're working harder than your kids, something is wrong. Okay, so that's one way. That's one of the benefits. You actually get your kids to start thinking. And secondly, you get the kids to understand what they know. So that's how they feel the sense of achievement. And most importantly, you get the kids to realize what they don't understand. A lot of the time when students are studying, they actually don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And once they find out what they don't know, then the solution is easy.
And it sounds like to me, parents, it's time to talk less, or as in teach less. Let your child teach you. Yeah. And a simple question to go about doing that will be, why don't you explain this to me, or can you explain that to me? Yeah. So use by asking questions instead of just using statements.
So for really young kids, I would advise that the first question that they should ask the kids when they come back from school is that, oh, what did you learn today? And then you're like, oh, that sounds really fun. Can you show me how you do that? Mm-hmm. If it's science, you'd be like, oh, tell me more about it.
So it's just to get the children to share more. Use words like tell me more. What did you learn? Yeah, and I think even for me, it's a self reminder too that we need to be open to what our children are sharing and not judge them. Yeah, because I think sometimes when I hear kids share, some parents during our workshops, actually they are very fast to fill in the words for the kids, or they will maybe say something that will make the child feel like, hey, actually this is what I'm sharing is not important.
And I think one of the following up on what you said, right?
Yep.
Actually very important to allow the kids to be wrong. Sometimes like when you jump in too fast or when you correct the kids too fast, then what they feel like is being wrong is a really bad thing. If your kids feel like being wrong is a bad thing, doing homework is like a life or death experience for them. Like I always ask like my parents, like, do you like to walk along the cliff? Most parents would be like, they don't like it, right? Then I'll be like, why do you not like it? And then a lot of people would tell me, because I feel like if I miss a step, I would die. And then one of the examples I always tell the parents is just that, this is exactly how your kids feel when they get things wrong. Like a lot of parents are just like, my kids hate doing homework. I can't get them to do homework and they keep getting things wrong. And then but the kids is actually really scared of getting things wrong. That's why they have such huge pressure of doing homework. Doing homework to them is like walking next to the cliff. Like things could go really wrong. And I'm like, of course your kids wouldn't like it. Sometimes like the best way is just to completely let it go. Another parents that I was speaking to, she told me that, okay, if I let the kids, do homework on his or her own, she just wouldn't do it. Then what do I do? So the question I asked her was, are you more scared of your kids not doing homework, or is your kids more scared of her not doing her submitting her homework? And the parent just like, yeah, my kids has no fear of not submitting the homework in school. And that's because the parents has took on all the fear and responsibility for the child. And if the child feel like, it has nothing to do with me, it's just my mom gets stressed about that, of course they wouldn't be motivated to do the homework. So honestly, I think teaching kids can sometimes be very challenging because it requires a lot of patience. And a lot of patience comes in from, that your kids is wrong. That your kids is like really taking time to do, for example, something really simple, like what is 5 times 2? But the challenge here is that you gotta make them think about it from the head. They have to go through the thinking process on their own in order to make it theirs. In order for them to like studying, to feel the sense of achievement, they have to think for it themselves.
And I really like your metaphor of the cliff. Yeah, it's something that I can share with my parents as well. Yeah, and what I got out from what you shared in the last 10 minutes will be to give children more ownership. Yeah, because somehow when I talk to parents, I can feel that the parents they really want their children to do well. At the same time, some of them have taken over the ownership of doing well in school. So it feels like the parents are going to school and the parents are expected to perform well in school rather than the kids.
It's funny how sometimes parents can be more stressed than the kids about homework. And for kids, like their relaxing moments is when they were in school. So they would like completely enjoy themselves. And then when they got home, start doing the homework, that's the time when they get really stressed.
So back to parents who are aware that, okay, so maybe throughout this past half an hour, the parents just realize, oh dear, now it's time for me to get my child to have more ownership. So what will be some of the small steps that parents can do at home to pass more of this responsibility to their kids? Maybe can you share a bit, like just 1 or 2?
Well, I guess it really depends on where the parents is, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the parents are normally like supervising the kids for homework sessions, so maybe that could be one of the first steps. Instead of sitting next to the kids when they do the homework, they could just be like, okay, these are your homework. How long do you think it would take you to finish? Then if the kids say half an hour, then you come back after half an hour and be like, oh, how is it going? Like, how much longer do you need? Or, yeah. If the kids has already doing homework on their own, the parents need to keep reminding them. It could be that, you could space out some of the reminder. Instead of reminding your kids every day or even every hour, remind them like twice a week. Just do a quick revision. Oh, did you forget your homework that time? Why is that? How could we prevent this from happening again? I think it's very important to train up those good study habits especially when kids are in primary school. I think I heard a quote from a I read a quote from this book called The Making of a Manager. I know it's not exactly relevant, but what it says, the CEO was saying that, a good CEO is one that could leave the company and it will still run successfully. And I always think of parents, especially mom, or dad, stay-at-home dad, John, as CEO of the family.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to be hands-on about everything. You're there to keep the day-to-day running, everything okay in your household. That's why I quote the book, and I always tell the parents, you're a great parent if your kids could go like autopilot on everything without your own. So I think sometimes you have to sacrifice the short-term perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Really take a step back, allow the kids to make some mistake, grow, review with them how, review on the system so that they could improve it generally.
And I really like the parts that you say to let go of short-term perfection. Wow, that is really nicely put. Yeah, and also I think you really hits the nail on the head in a sense of by saying parents got to review with the children what works and what didn't work. And I think a lot of times, probably because even being a parent myself, time is never enough. Yeah, I mean, you know that I have 3 girls and time is still not enough, even though all of us know that we have 24 hours a day. Yeah. So I think somehow it just takes so much effort and tears and scolding just to review with our kids what worked and what they were. And some of us may not know. Yeah. So how will be some of your ways that a parent can sit down and really work with the kids to review on what has gone wrong, or no, sorry, I shouldn't use the word what has gone wrong. Yeah, what has gone well and what can be improved.
Okay, so I guess the first reflection I think comes from parents. Parents should, really take a few, maybe 1 or 2 hours in the weekend, looking back on the week, be like, what are you spending your time on with the kids? If you're spending every day, you're chasing after them about homework, then you can think about, how could I build up a system that could remind my kids to do homework on his own? If you're sitting down, like chasing him to study, like how could I automate this process? So it's so important to do the review because it shows you how much time you're spending on each thing. So I would say the first thing to work on is tackle the time where you spend the most time on. And for example, in your case, John, I honestly think I'm lucky to have 3 daughters. When in family with a few kids, right? I always advise the parents to let go of some of their responsibility to the older kids. So like maybe review your timeline and see, what could you let your oldest kids do? They could take over some of your role. First of all, it will really help build up the kids and it will take time off you. I mean, that's why you have more kids, right? So they could sort themselves out.
And yes, I agree with you because this is what happened in my family. I will get the eldest kid to help me to teach my middle child in some questions. Yeah, and also what I did for my eldest kid, she's pretty independent in her work. Yeah, so grateful for that as well. And and routine for her will be 3 maths questions every day, and I won't check on her work. She can ask me only, I mean, if she has questions. Yeah, so but once in a while, I will just make sure that I will check on her work that she did the work. But when I realized that she actually has been doing 3 questions a day for the past few months, I will leave her alone and I focus more on my middle child.
Wow, that sounds like a really good system running.
Yeah, it's automation. Automation, getting her to mark by herself as well, so it frees up a lot of my time.
Yeah. When the kids marks their own work, they actually learn so much. John, I feel like you did a few things like exceptionally well there.
Really?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I really like that you get her to do 3 questions a day. Because I think this is one of the challenge that we all faces. You know, whenever we think of improvement, we're like, okay, we're gonna do like 1 hour of maths or 1 hour of science. But actually, that is not sustainable. Whereas if you let her or him choose something that she feels like she could do, she could achieve. So for example, 3 questions a day. What a great start. Then you could do it every day consistently. And consistency is so much more important than a short-term boost. And I think you mentioned that your oldest child is very independent. I always think like, I hear a lot of parents say, oh yeah, you know, if only my child is independent, then I could do this. But actually, independence actually comes hand in hand with how much responsibility you give them. It's kind of like a chicken and egg thing. Which one comes first? But it doesn't matter whichever it is. But whenever you give your child more responsibility, they would then become more independent.
Sorry,
When
can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Okay, because I think the internet is not very stable. I mean, I'm not sure is my side or your side, but I think as long as you can hear me, it's fine. Yeah, yeah. I think I got to give a disclaimer. Yeah, because it's not every day that my girl does work by herself. Because there are some days that she has more schoolwork than usual. Yeah, and then she'll ask me, Papa, can I leave it to next day? Yes, but she knows that she has to top it up. Yeah, so I give her the freedom to plan as well. And even for my middle child, what I did with her is, as I mentioned, maths is not her favorite subject, and it's really sometimes I can find that it's a hair pulling experience when I teach her. Yeah, it's a hair pulling experience. Yeah, so but I know that she likes science, so sometimes I put science after math instead of math after science, so that she can do something that she doesn't like to look forward to something that she likes. That works for me as well.
I guess you could try to sandwich it as well. Science, math, science, and then sandwiching it normally helps. Like I think it's better to say that instead of saying that your middle child doesn't like maths, I think it's much better to say that, oh, you just haven't found the secrets yet. You just haven't found the click yet. Because every time you say it, you're subconsciously changing your mind and it would reflect onto the child. If the child has the strong belief that I hate maths, I'm not a maths person, they would never overcome that. And sometimes, you know, it sounds really silly, like all these small little things, but all these small little things make such a big difference. I guess one of the examples that I just read about from the book called Atomic Habits, that I really enjoy this example. So let's say someone is quitting smoking, right? There's person A and person B. So I'm gonna make you guess who is gonna be more successful in quitting smoking. The first person, when someone offered him a cigarette after he quit, he said, "Oh no, I quit. I don't smoke anymore." And whereas person B, when you offer him cigarettes, he said, "Oh, I'm not a smoker." Like, and who do you think would have a higher chance of quitting smoking?
The first one?
Actually, person B, because his new identity is that I'm not a smoker. The first one is just like, oh, I'm on break. I kind of don't do that anymore. And that's why a lot of people fall back into it. And it is the same with studying. So instead of keep stressing that, oh, I used to do that. I used to think that I'm not the study type. And think back, it has really hindered on my results. And I actually have a very interesting student that I want to talk to you about this mindset.
Yeah.
But when you say, oh, she doesn't like maths, but she has to do it. She has to get good at it. it's much harder for her to get good at it than telling her that, oh, you are really good. You know, we are from a math family. You are really good at math. You just haven't found your click yet, but one day you will. So like, I actually have a student who's like constantly getting B. Like no matter what he does, he cannot get A. But he's extremely hardworking. And when we do questions, he could do every single question. But the problem is, whenever it comes to exam, he would always get B, even though he knows all the answer. That was because in his head, he was this kid who was not an A student. And it's so funny that like just by thinking that, he gets really nervous in an exam. And when he see a question he doesn't understand, he think, yeah, I knew it. No matter how hard I work, I'm just a B student. I can never do everything. Then imagine if you spend time thinking about this rather than working out the question in an exam. Of course, you're going to get it wrong. Of course, you're not going to have enough time. So that's why a lot of parents don't realize mindset is actually extremely important. Sometimes even kids see a short-term boost in their results, and then they would come back down after a while. Or the worst case scenario is that they do really well, but in the major exam, that's when they messed up. So that's why I keep emphasizing, you know, study techniques, mindset, and study quality are kind of three legs of a chair. If it's not balanced, it's not stable.
Yeah, and I love the parts that you talk about mindset because it's such a big factor and one of the key factors, yeah, to help a child to do well. Yeah, and before you touch on more, because I think that we can also share with parents like the different kind of mindsets that help a child do well. Yeah, so for parents who are still online with us right now, now we have Dr. Christina sharing with us how do you 10x your study skills and your performance as well. Yeah, so she's sharing with us her journey of coaching kids from F to A students. Yeah, so if you have any questions, do feel free to post in the Facebook post so that we can address that. And then if you are here, just drop us a like or say hi. And then if you want to share this Facebook Live with your friends so that you can benefit more people, help us to click on the share button. Yeah. Okay. So back to the discussion. I think that we can actually share with parents more about the mindset because I think it's a big thing and it's so intangible and yet it's so important. And I think that for the fact that it's intangible, many parents actually they overlook it. Yeah. So I do believe that some kids they always tell themselves that, hey, I'm not good in math, I'm not good in math, I'm not good in math. And it became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it affects their performance as well. And allow me to share with you a story. Many years ago, I actually talked to a mom and she brought along her child to our center to ask us for help. Yeah, then she was saying things like, hey, John, you're going to help me. Yeah, you know, ever since and she was saying things like, oh, my child always say to himself that he's very poor in math and he can't do well. And you know, John, when I was young, and I was also very bad and poor in math. Yeah, and my father always told me that I can't do well. Yeah, so I don't want this to happen to him. Yeah, so guess where the child actually learned from the mommy. Yeah, so in such cases, even parents, I think all parents love their kids and they really want their children to do well. And yet some parents may not have very good experience learning math since they were children. Yeah. So how can we parents actually help our children to adjust the mindsets at home?
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I just suddenly thought about like all the time in school when I felt like I'm just not the study type. I couldn't do it. Honestly, that feeling is the worst feeling ever. I think part of it is based on our sorry. I think part of it is based on our education system.
Yeah.
Especially in Asia, like our education system is always look at what you haven't done well, what you haven't got well. So let's say you come back with exam with 90 out of 100. then it's very easy for the teachers to be like, oh, let's look at, where you got wrong. It's very easy for parents to look at why didn't you get 100, where you've got wrong. And I think for students to change their mindset, fundamentally, it has to come from the parents. Mainly is how the parents talk to the kids. So like, instead of, when they cannot get a questions, instead of saying, oh yeah, math is really hard, substitute the word hard with, oh, math is very challenging. And then get the kids to imagine how you feel if you could do that. And always look at what they can do. So for example, sometimes when I teach some students, so I actually taught a student who did really badly in all their subjects. And sometimes when you do badly in your subjects, it kind of impacts on your confidence and it affects the other. So when he came to me, he was completely in the stage where I don't want to learn, I cannot learn. Whatever you ask him, he will say, I don't know. So when they're at that point, what I would do what I would do is to look at, like, let's say, look at the test results. They got 30 points, right? Let's say 30 out of 100. Then I'll look at, okay, this is where you got right. So this is what you can do. Okay, this question is at this level. Let's try a little bit of a harder level to see whether or not you can do it. And then that way, keep looking at what they can do and keep reminding what they can do. It really starts changing the student, like, in a completely different mindset. So for example, let's say a student is a C student. So C student is probably getting 70 out of 100, right? Parents would, like, a lot of kids, they're always thinking, why am I not an A? Why am I not an A student? I'm so sad that I'm not an A student. They never look at the 70 marks that they could get. But actually, if you get 70, it's very easy to move on to 80. All you got to look at is, 70 marks, actually, a lot of them, when they make less careless mistake in exam, that will already push them into a B. And how do they make less careless mistake? Is that they have a really clear set boundary of, oh, this is what I can do, and this is what I can do well. Build on that. Keep building on that. Oh, this is what you can do well. And then start adding more things into it. You could be like, okay, last week, factorization is something I cannot do. But this week, I could already do basic factorizations. Because I think we have the same challenge for kids as well. And even for me, whenever I'm learning something, every time I do something, instead of looking how far I've come, it's so easy to say, that is how far I still gotta go. But that's the way of never getting to your destination. The secret of doing it is really to look at what you have and keep building on that. Get better on what you can do, and then success will start to flow in. And one of the mindset is actually give your child more responsibility, even out of their learning. Because sometimes, I see some parents, they're very protective, very loving. They tell their kids, you don't need to do anything. All you got to do is to study well. It actually gives them tremendous pressure because they feel like their own value comes from studying.
Mm-hmm.
They don't study, if they don't do well, they have no value. Actually, one of the tips is actually get them to do housework. It makes your life easier, and it makes their life easier in the future. And all those small things build up on what they can do. And really have faith in your kids, I see a lot of parents when the kids is not doing well, they started telling themselves, oh yeah, my kids is not the study type. That's why they don't do well.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, one of the parents share a very touching story after our lesson. She actually started crying the lessons because, I tell her that if you want your kids to believe in yourself, you got to start off by believing in your kids. And she always tell her kids, her kids would always ask her, she was like, oh, Mom, what if I try my best and still don't do well? And the mom answered by, it's okay. Like, if you don't do well, that's okay. Like, I still love you. So, but actually the underlying message is that it's okay. I know that you're maybe not the study type. And because that's what she really believed in. And then I explained to her, actually, what kids needs from you is that confidence. Even though they got 50, you are confident that they could get 100. It's extremely hard. My parents somehow had that in me. Even though I failed 7 subjects a year, they always tell me, you just haven't found your way, but you will. And one day it happened, you know, because they brainwashed me for so many years. But the reason she cried was she shared a story, and she said one day she was, you know, having a really tough day at work. And then the kids just come and hug her and be like, Mommy, I know you can do it because you're more than that.
Wow, so touching.
Yeah, like, you know, kids has unlimited faith in us as teacher, as parents. But sometimes they always don't get the reciprocal trust. And that's why they started feeling so like, they started not believing in themselves, because with or without knowing it, we started to sip in underlying message. For example, telling the kids, oh, it's okay, you know, don't aim for A, don't stress yourself too hard. Mommy loves you no matter what. But sometimes what the kids want is that, I'm not sure whether I could do it. I got a B. I feel like I would forever be a B student. Sometimes what the kids want from parents, from teacher, is just, I know you could do it. I know you could do it.
So what I got out from your sharing is parents we gotta be very careful not to pack our children's confidence to grades. Yeah. At the same time, I think what I got out from what you have shared is we need to always consistently tell our kids that we love them. And it shouldn't be like, oh, because you did well, you got 80 plus marks, that's why we love you. What I try to do is on every alternate days, I will tell my child that I love her. Okay, it's really hard, you know, like, but I will try my best, like, to give them a hug, or to kiss them on their forehead. Yeah, so different love gestures. Yeah. So whatever else, yeah.
You could always like give them a little bit of a positive pressure. So I don't know like how your middle child does on her math test and exam. But let's say she got 70. You know, you could be like, oh, you got 70, but I know you could get 80. A bit of a positive pressure. And I think one of the things is parents have to really start trusting their kids. Knowing that although they are C student, they are actually capable of getting an A. Sometimes just by changing that mindset alone, the results would improve. Because when I was at uni, I go around to a lot of secondary school, giving talk and giving speeches. And a lot of students and parents write to me and telling me that just by seeing how much my results improve, their results has improved because they realize that it is possible. And I was always like, wow, that's amazing. Like, I think that is without any like study method, any study techniques. Just by changing the mindset alone, your results could improve. And I think it's true for like a lot of my students, because a lot of them see like absolute crazy improvements. And this couldn't have happened without them changing how they see themselves.
And with this, could you also help us to address this question from Mami Supa? Okay, she's asking more specifically towards English composition. So how can you help kids who take 2 to 3 hours to do an English essay and then cuts down to 50 minutes? Yeah, probably she's referring more to Singapore's English syllabus.
Cut down to 15 minutes, as in 15 minutes a day, or cut down.
Okay, I think what she's trying to step that process. So let's say now it's 8 o'clock. Then the child sat down to practice on her English composition. Then she took like 3 hours all the way until 11. Yeah, so I think what Mommy is asking is how can she actually cut the time by at least half, and also while getting the same effectiveness. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Okay, there are a few steps that you could implement along the way, but the most important key here is that do one thing at a time. So first of all is like setting the expectation with the kids, you know, how long does the kids think he need to do it? So let's say it now takes him 3 hours. He thinks he'll finish by 11, right? Then the first steps you could do would be like, oh, okay, how long do you think it would? He says 11. Then you'll be like, do you think you could try to finish it within half 10? If you could finish it within half 10, you know, then an award. It could be something small, you know, we could watch a YouTube video together. Okay, when I say award, it's very important that it should not cost money. It is super important to dissociate kids with studying, happiness, and money. Okay, this is extremely important. So, so first of all, it's like ask whether or not he could do it a little bit faster. A second way you could help him is that before he started to do the English essay, set some expectation. Ask him, what are you gonna do? Break it down into small parts. So English essays start with introductions, main body, how many paragraphs, and how many conclusions, right?
Yeah.
So ask him, how long are you gonna spend on each one? You know, it could be, you know, if this English essay is not like super urgent, maybe break it down. Because honestly, I don't know about you, but I do feel like if I work very intensely after 1 hour, I actually get really tired and I need a small break. And it's even harder with kids. The best way for kids to study is not actually push them to do 3 hours at the same time. It's actually use the Pomodoro techniques, breaking down it into small chunks. So for example, you spend 15 minutes doing the introductions, then you take a little break. But it's also very important what you do in the break. You should not do any electronic stuff. It's actually a lot of ways you could improve your kids' efficiency. This is just one of the ways. So set the expectation with the kids, break down the task so that help them visualize the process. And with English, with any kind of essays topic, the extremely important thing is to have an essay plan. So they know exactly what they're going to put in each paragraph before they start writing it out. So even before you set essay plan, you're just like, okay, so before we write the essay, we're gonna spend 15 minutes to write an essay plan. Oh, ask the kids, let's write an essay plan first. How long do you think you need? Always get him to imagine the time. This is extremely important because first, he would have an idea. Secondly, is that he has to think through the process once. So when he thinks through the process once in his head, right? They actually did it in their head once, and it makes it a lot easier to do it. I don't know whether you have the experience of like learning sports or learning any new skills. After you do it, you have to really close your eyes and think it through once, then you could do it. Then you could probably do it. It is actually the same with kids, you know. When you get them to visualize doing the homework, it's like they did it in their head once. So when they do it again, it's actually a lot faster, a lot more efficient. And I would say then slowly cut down the time. Find out when it stopped being efficient. So for example, maybe 2 to 3 hours, you realize that actually maybe the first hour is not very efficient. The kids was taking way too long planning the essay. Then you'll be like, okay, I'm gonna cut down that part. Or maybe it's like coming to the end. When it comes to after 10 p.m., it just became super slow. Then maybe you realize that is a time that you need to jump in and take a small break with the kids.
And it sounds like this is the planning stage for the children. It doesn't matter, is it doing English? It can be used in other subjects as well. And this reminded me of the quotes that I think I heard somewhere, probably not the exact same phrase, but it says something along this line, like, if you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I will spend like the first 4 to sharpen a saw. And I guess this is how children can approach doing the English essay as well. In this example, plan first, don't just jump in and try to write. And then sometimes children realize that they wrote wrongly, they have to erase away everything and then they start again.
Yes, 100%. When it comes to essay, and actually any sorts of study sessions, you should always plan first. I think there are actually 4 essential steps to studying. I call it the Puma framework. P stands for preparation. U stands for understanding.
Sorry, can you sorry, can you slow down? P stands for preparation.
Yeah, quick slides on that so that you don't have to type it out. Should I share them with you?
Yeah, please. And also I think this is a very nice way to wrap up.
Okay. Okay. Let me. So that's me when I graduated.
You have to do a full screen or something so that we don't see your. Yeah, great. It's great.
Okay. So there are 4 essential steps to study, and if you do all 4 steps right, your grades and study efficiency will improve by 10 times at least. So the first step is oops, sorry, that was my past result. The first step is preparation. As I say, before study sessions, ask your kids, what are you going to learn? How long do you think it would take you? How are you going to do this? You really need to start preparing the study sessions, plan it out. And if it's for essay, then, essay plans. You understanding is more for, when you're learning. You need to understand the topic. How are you going to approach it? What study method are you going to use in order for you to understand what you're learning? Memorize. I don't have a good memory.
Mm-hmm.
Without different memory techniques, I could never get through medicine. So, and honestly, memorizing, hearing the word memorizing already give me and a lot of kids headache, but it can be really fun if you use the right techniques. So always think about how are you going to remember what you've learned? And lastly, apply. I mean, although I really love studying, I probably wouldn't study if it wasn't for exam. So how can I apply my knowledge in a way that would help me boost up my exam grades? What is the most efficient way to apply it? So I would say really take a step back for parents and both parents and students to look at how your kids is actually doing in those 4 steps and slowly improve the efficiency in those 4 steps.
Great. Okay, so this is the P stands for preparation, U stands for understand, M is memorize, and A stands for apply. Okay, we have now it's already 8:34. Yeah, so I think thank you so much for sharing so many ways that a child can improve his study quality. Yeah. Could you share with us what is one key takeaway for the parents?
I feel like I have so many.
I think just share one. Yeah. Yeah, probably we can exit this slide share. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, great.
Yeah, I think if there was one thing that I'm gonna share is that believe and know that your kids could do it. Believe and know that your kids could love in studying. All they need is to find the right study method for them. That's how I went from an F to an A student. Finding my right study method.
So it sounds to me like find what fits your child. Don't change your child.
Yeah, don't change your child and believe in your child. It's not that they're not good at maths. It's just that they haven't found the study method that is right for them. For example, I really love your books, John. I feel like it is able to explain maths in such a different angle and make it fun and interesting. You need to know that everything you learn in school can be extremely fun and interesting. You just need to approach it from the right angle.
Thanks for your kind words. Okay, so if parents want to get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
I started a Facebook group. So they could join my Facebook group if they have any questions, or if they want to learn more about me, they could go to my website or the one about my course to find out more about the techniques that I spoke about today.
Okay, I got from your Facebook page.
Yep.
I'm going to put inside the chat box of Zoom. Can you see if this is the right one so I can paste it under the comments?
Yeah, you can use this page to get to me too.
Okay, but anyway, if they go to 10xstudy.org, they will be redirected to the page as well, right?
To the page. Yeah, it should work. www.
Parents, if to get in touch with Christina, you can go to 10xstudy.org. Okay, or you can in Facebook, if you want to join her Facebook group, you can Google. Sorry, you can Google. Oh my God, you can search 10x study. Am I right?
10x Study Strategy Group.
Okay, can you share with them like the Facebook group? I mean, just show them how it looks like. Then we'll do a wrap up.
Yeah, let me find the link. So I'm planning to share more study techniques, what I learned from books into this group. Let me share with you here.
Yep.
Oops, is this the right link? Okay, maybe I'll just send you the link later, John.
Okay, I know what to copy. Go on. Okay, in the meantime, parents who are still around, thank you so much for being here. We have Joyce, we have Jiaxi, we have Su Wei, and we have other parents who are still here. Hold on, just a minute. Okay, I think, okay, let me just do a share screen.
Thank you so much, John.
Okay, you can go to 10x Study Strategies group. Just search in Facebook. Then you can find this new group that Christina just set up. Okay. Okay, I can paste in the link as well. Yeah, I can paste in the can paste the link in the Facebook group as well. Oh, Jiaxi, I think is not a parent. She said she's a child. Thanks for joining us. Okay. Okay, so now we have come to the end of the sharing. And normally I will ask our guests a final question. Is it okay? I can ask you as well.
Go ahead, John.
Okay. Yeah, you have no choice, right? Just kidding. Okay. I'm going to bring you back to the time when you were 12 years old. And why is it? Because for Singapore kids, that is a very crucial stage. Yeah, all of us have to sit through the PSLE. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if I may bring you back to your younger days. Okay, I know that you're very young. Yeah. So young. And yet you have done so much to help children. Yeah. Okay, if I can bring you back to your younger days and down the memory lane, and you bump into your 12-year-old you. Okay, and she's so close to you that you can almost touch her and she's looking at you right into the eyes. What will you tell your younger self?
It's funny you asked that 12 years old, because I think 12, 13 years old is probably the darkest time in my life.
Really?
I was like working nonstop. I was extremely stressed. That was a time I worked even harder than medical school, and my results are still terrible. So if I could go back to 12 years old me, I would tell myself, don't work hard blindly. Like, look at how you're working. Look at the method. Spend more time finding the right method rather than just blindly putting in the hours. And I would tell myself, it's really not, you're not stupid. It's really not you. You're just using the wrong method. It's like me trying to use a chopstick to cut down a tree. Like, it's not you. It's nothing to do with you. You're smart. You can do it. It's just, you were just using the wrong method.
Awesome. And anything else you want to tell yourself?
Tell myself. I think tell my younger self that, you know, one day everything would work out.
Awesome. Oh, that's a really nice way to wrap up. Yeah, parents, I think Christina has wrapped up very nicely. Eventually, everything will work out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's already 8:42. Christina, thank you so much for your time and for sharing so much on the different study techniques. And even though it's not pertaining to math, I think parents just want the uh the fast food answer, like just give me this one so I can use it right now. And yet what we want to do is we want to share with parents as many tools as possible so parents can help their children now as well as something that the children can use for the long term.
Thank you so much, John, for having me. And thank you for summarizing everything so nicely.
Great, thanks. Okay, so don't go off first. Parents, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you again and have a good night. Take care. Bye-bye.